Good evening, everybody. I declare the meeting open. A note that we are live streaming our meeting. I'd like to ask Councillor Barry Winmar to present the Welcome to Country.
I'd like to acknowledge that we stand on Noongar country tonight at this meeting. Acknowledge elders past and present. And I begin by saying, Nalak Nyeling Kurlong, Kurangalak Noich, Nija, Noongar Buja. Noongar Murt Jerpen, Nyeling Nija Kwabalak, Noongar Buja Kurlong. From the beginning of time to the end, this is Noongar country. Noongar people have been graceful keepers of our nation for many, many years. Ngala Jerpen Mambat Buja, Ngala Balak Mambat Kwab. Ngala Kurt Jerpen Nyinya Ngala Mai Nyining, Noongar Buja. We respect the earth, our mother, and understand that we belong to her. She does not belong to us. In all her beauty, we find comfort, well-being, and life that creates a home for everyone that has become a keeper of Noongar country. Jinjin Karajing Jerpen Nija Wern Noongar Buja, Ngala Mai Border. Look, listen, understand, and embrace all the elements of Noongar country that is forever our home. Kai Wanju Ngan Barry Winmar, Wajak Baladong Marman, Ngan Kort Jerpen, Nunuk Nija Noongar Buja, Dajilwangri Noach Noongar Buja. Hello and welcome. My name is Barry Winmar. I'm a Wajak Baladong man. My heart is happy as we're gathered on Noongar country and speaking here on Noongar country tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Winmar, and I'd also like to acknowledge that we meet here on the land of the Noongar people and pay our respects to their elders past, present. And I'd like to call upon Councillor Sherilyn Wood to read the dedication.
May we, the elected members of the City of Kwinana, have the wisdom to consider all matters before us with due consideration, integrity and respect for the Council Chamber. May the decisions made be in good faith and always in the best interest of the greater Kwinana community that we serve.
Thank you. There is nothing on item 4. There are no members of the public in attendance. There is nothing that I'm aware of in items 6.1, 6.2 or 6.3. Item 7.1 is a confirmation of the minutes held of the Ordinary Council meeting of the 14th of September. Are there any questions on those minutes? If not, would somebody like to move their acceptance? Moved Councillor Winmar, seconded Councillor Brown. Thank you. Anybody wish to speak to those minutes? Not, I shall put them to the vote. All in favour? Against? So carried. Item 8, declarations of interest. I'd like to declare an interest in relation to 17.1, an impartiality interest as a member of the Metro Outer Joint Development Assessment Panel, where we will be assessing this item again when it comes before the JDAP. Thank you.
Thank you, Worship. I'd like to make the same declaration for 17.1, impartiality interest.
Thank you. Request for leave of absence. I seek to request leave of absence from the 14th of January to the 22nd of January inclusive. Somebody happy to move that way? Move Deputy Mayor, second to Councillor Winmar. All in favour? Against? So carried. I thank you for
Sorry,
that.
Worship, request for leave of absence as well. Monday the 7th of November through till the Sunday the 13th of November.
Thank you. Sorry, went a bit too early then. Anybody else have a leave of absence? Just the 2 days? Thank you. Thank you. If there's nothing further, would somebody like to move Councillor Winmar and Councillor Kearney's leave of absence? Moved Councillor Rouse, seconded Councillor S. Wood. All in favour? Against? So carried. There is nothing in item 10 to item 14. Item 15.1 is a standardisation of the planning controls in the Global Advanced Industry Hub. Is there any additional information requested of the officers? I just had a question. Where did the title of the Global Advanced Industry Hub come from? Was that from the government or was it from the officers?
Through you, Madam Chair, that's from the Ministerial Task Force that was set up.
Thank you. And when will or have the City of Rockingham and Cockburn already presented their MOUs to their respective council meetings?
Through you, Madam Chair, once it's gone through council tonight, then Rockingham and Cockburn will follow.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? There is a recommendation. Would somebody like to move that way? Moved Councillor Rouse, seconded Councillor S. Wood. Councillor Rouse, do you wish to speak on the item? Councillor Wood? Anybody wish to speak against? I shall put it to the vote. All in favour? Against, so carried. I would just like to congratulate the City of Kwinana in particular, who have driven this MOU and these arrangements for some time. It's been great that the City of Rockingham and Cockburn have come on board, and I think it'll put us in a really good position for people who are coming and wanting to invest in the cities or in the region here, that they have confidence that our planning regimes will be common across the boundaries. So it's a great initiative and I applaud the officers for it. Thank you. Item 17.1, the JDAP Development Assessment Panel application for the medical clinic on lot 9012 Albina Avenue, Anketel, noting that Councillor Rouse and I have declared an impartiality interest. Are there any questions on this item? I have a question, if I may. I'm sorry, I wasn't able to attend the briefing on this, but the condition in relation to the glazing of the windows, is that glazing, the thick glazing for noise? I'll just go to the specific reference to it, because given that it's going to be on a very major route there on Anketel Road, 16, a minimum of 50% of each window facing Anketel Road is to be clear glazed to the satisfaction of the City of Kwinana. And I'm just wondering if that is the noise attenuation depth, if anyone could assist.
Through you, Worship, it's not for noise attenuation, it's more for activation of the frontage.
Should we be asking that there be noise attenuation windows there?
The noise report that was prepared as part of the development application didn't require any of those sorts of mitigation requirements.
Yeah, I was actually quite surprised, because I know that we have in other areas asked for some noise attenuation, but if the proponent hasn't requested, thank you.
The idea of noise attenuation is that the use of the facility is not residential, it's medical center, and it's only operate from 8:30 to 5 o'clock. So the noise is not a big issue. So that's what the report come up with.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? If not, we have a recommendation. Would somebody like to move? Councillor D. Wood. Seconded Councillor Rouse. Councillor Wood, do you wish to speak on the item? Councillor Rouse? Anybody wish to speak against? I shall put it to the vote. All in favour? Against, so carried. Item 14.2 is the development application for council reconsideration of the Automotive Masters Motor Repair Shop on Chisholm Avenue, Kwinana. Are there any questions of the officers? If not, we have...
Yes, Your Worship. I will ask a question which I probably know the answer to, but I will ask it so the councillors know the answer. Mrs. Cook and I met with the planning consultant for the Automasters on
25th.
Friday, after the workshop that was conducted for councillors, and one of the fairly significant issues were that Automasters were quite happy to be elsewhere on the block, but the owners of the block weren't necessarily happy for them to be elsewhere. So I'm just wondering if I can turn that into questions so Mrs. Cook can relay something in relation to that. If that was vague enough.
Through you, Your Worship, as the Deputy Mayor indicated, the city officers have worked with the proponent to look for alternative sites, and those conversations did take place with the Shopping Centre Australia, the owner of the actual shopping centre site. They had indicated that they were hamstrung by the two main tenants of the shopping centre, and as a result were limited in terms of where they could locate Automasters. And this was confirmed through our meeting last Friday, where Automasters, whilst quite happy to be relocated to another location on that site, were limited by Shopping Centres Australia.
Anything follow from the response? If not, we have a recommendation. Would somebody like to move that way? Move Deputy Mayor, seconded Councillor Rouse. Deputy Mayor, do you wish to speak on the item?
Just briefly, Your Worship, I think the city needs to stand firm in relation to the city centre master plan, in relation to the Main Street development. The city's invested many millions of dollars in redeveloping Chisholm Avenue with refurbished footpaths and landscaping. And I guess ultimately the thought is that some buildings to the street to activate more pedestrians and more people is on the plan, and this certainly doesn't tick those boxes, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Rouse.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I had some notes prepared to speak, but I think the Deputy Mayor has summed it up, my sentiments exactly, so thank you.
Thank you. Anybody wish to speak against? I shall put it to the vote. All in favour? Against? Carried. Item 18.1 is the change of the method of filling the position of Mayor. I anticipate, or I'm quite happy to suspend standing orders should Council wish to speak freely on this item. It is a significant item going forward as from 2023. So first of all though, are there any specific questions of the officers?
Kind of, Your Worship. I believe the Minister has subsequently released more information in relation to what they expect councils to do after this. Is that correct, or is that kind of when I'm talking about the information where they've suggested certain local governments had to drop X number of councillors and abolish wards, and basically in a nutshell, if councillors didn't want to get on board, that it would happen anyway, and they would dispel councils to do so.
Sorry, was that just through the media, or was there a letter? Because I'm not aware of a letter to any of the councils.
Through you, Madam Chair, correspondence was received from the Minister for Local Government advising that in the instance of the city, no change to the number of elected members was required. However, the city would be required to transition to a popularly elected mayor. It was made clear that any councils not transitioning voluntarily may be subject to regulations which require the spilling of all seats.
So that's not the letter that appears in this item. This is received afterwards. Okay, sorry. And I've been on a leave of absence, so wasn't aware. Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions?
Sorry, Your Worship, and I do note that council haven't actually been provided with a copy of that letter from the Minister.
I found this on the web.
Did you've already found it on the web? Are you requesting that this item be deferred to allow us to read the letter, or you're quite comfortable, because we do know publicly the Minister's view on this, notwithstanding the fact that we may not have physically read the letter?
I If the manager of governance has pretty much summarised what is in the letter, I'm comfortable personally with the summary. If as long as other councillors are.
Thank you, CEO.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. So the manager of governance has summarised pretty much in what's in the report, which is in the intent of the letter from the Minister of Local Government. Basically, as was summarised, the direction is that the Minister is working to bring this into legislation. He is, however, strongly recommending that councils transition early to this. If a council does not transition early and is having to do this as a result of the legislation that comes in, he will look to spill the council, and that was the intent that came through the letter. The other thing too, which is the direction, is that their preference is to for councils to try and maintain numbers. There is also a very strong direction around the removal of wards, and that's part of the local reform package. So basically, what came through in the letter is very much what's in the report.
Any further questions arise from the question from Deputy Mayor?
Can I just say, so
Certainly.
you're saying that we can have 8 councillors?
Sorry, councillors, if you wouldn't mind just standing
Sorry.
when addressing. Thanks.
So 8 councillors and 1 mayor? Is that what we're saying?
7 councillors.
But we can have 8 plus the mayor?
No, through you, Madam Chair. No, so the intent is that the total number of elected members will be 8, comprising 7 councillors and 1 mayor, which is what the current number is. That's what's in the...
So I'll ask that, would somebody like to move to... Okay.
Standing order that requires not to do what we need to do, not full suspension standing orders, whatever.
Would you like to suspend standing orders, Deputy Mayor? Move Deputy Mayor. Seconded Councillor Winmar. All in favour? Against? So carried. Thank you. Councillor Wood, you wish to speak freely on this matter? And if you wouldn't mind putting on your microphone. Only if you can,
No, it's
Councillor
all right.
Wood.
I can get up. I was just trying to remember the point. It's listed on page 133 of 18.1, which says that even rural councils have more than we have as councillors. There's some that have got 9 and even more. That I hope we're going to lose or not, but there's a chart down the bottom here, if I'm flicking through it. Mundaring's got 12, but it doesn't say how many they're going to lose. And Busselton's got 9, there's 9 in Belmont, there's 9 in South Perth. No one's saying they have to remove one. So why are we going to remove a councillor when it's worked well for years? The only difference is the mayor will be elected as well. And so I can't find the exact words that I was reading this afternoon. I apologise. So it's 133.18, 1 for 1 section, and 130. Where are we?
I suppose that's an issue for us to debate.
Yes, I think
this
it should be
evening.
debated because I remember reading through it because I read it fairly thoroughly, but I
So
was
we're not
interrupted
getting...
a number of times today.
All right, so we've just got to be careful not to get into debate
Do you want
now,
me to
but...
provide clarification?
Thank you.
Through Madam Chair, just in terms of clarification. So the report clearly states that the recommendation is for council to remain with the number of current elected members. So in terms of the number of councillors that you have 7 councillors and you have 1 mayor, which is appointed through the council. So the intention is you remain with the same number. What was being provided is a comparison just to show how other council, the numbers vary. from the meeting that the Mayor and I have had with the Minister, he has made it quite clear that a number of those councils will be reducing their numbers. So, and you've also got to remember the different band councils as well. For councils now, they've set a level of between 5,000 and 75,000 population. The number of councillors would be between 5 and 9, which includes the Mayor. So our recommendation is that you remain. That table is there purely just to show the numbers vary.
And the issue is, if we are going to change numbers, the Minister has been very clear that it would be a downward change. We surrendered one of our numbers when we were going through the local government reform beforehand. We had 9 councillors, 1 resigned, and we didn't put 1 back. So that's how we've ended up with an uneven number. But really, if you want to end up with an uneven number again, you'd have to reduce six councillors to 1 mayor. Deputy?
Sorry, Your Worship, I was just going to, so the Minister's media release, this kind of points out some of the points that Councillor Wood was making. So 48 local governments will need to reduce their size, and so it doesn't list the local governments, reduce the size of their council. 22 local governments will need to change electing the mayor or president by a public vote or ratepayers. 11 local governments will need to abolish wards, and 71 local governments will need to reform criteria and will not be required to make any changes to the size or structure. So.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak on this? Thank you.
Your Worship.
Councillor Winmar.
So I understand where the Minister is coming from, the intent. The local government reformers want to see improvement with council elections and the delivery of benefits for ratepayers and residents. This is an excerpt from the media release. Also, to reiterate the Deputy Mayor's position with the reduction of the number of councillors.
Sorry, Councillor, I'm just mindful we're suspended standing orders to have asked questions, etc. I'm just mindful if we might be going into debate. So
Okay, I'll go. I've got 2 questions.
Thank you.
The first question: with the mayoral candidate election, if it is elected as a current candidate, does the vacancy create a by-election, and what is the cost? Part B: if it's elected from the candidate outside of the successful candidates, does a supernumerary create an expense to council? And I think you further went on to say that there will be no supernumerary. 8 is the total number. Is that correct?
I can cover those questions.
Thank you. I'd be grateful.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. So in relation to those questions, so the first one is, no matter the timing of this, we're always going to have the situation, should an existing councillor run from another tranche of election. So take this example. So in 2023, we have a number of councillors which are up for re-election. If someone chooses to stand but they're not up for re-election until 2025 and they are successful in 2023, then that will result in a by-election. That's always going to be the case because of the way WA splits the election of its council. So that's always going to be a cost. The cost, not sure, somewhere in the vicinity of 50.
Sorry, CEO. I know previously when this particular issue has occurred in other local governments where a sitting councillor has been elected mayor, then it's done at an ordinary council election. So they generally go to the next person on the...
No.
Which is what has happened previously.
No, through you, Madam Chair. No, we have had clarification of that through the Electoral Commission and also through DLG. You cannot do that. It has to be a by-election. So we've had clarification on that.
That's different procedure to what they've previously undertaken.
For example, I suppose you look at Rockingham when they elected their popular elected mayor. The mayor, Deb Hamlin, she nominated just to be the mayor, I think. So there would have been a vacancy, but because it was done at the election, that's what you're saying, there was no need for a by-election.
Is that not the same as when a councillor retires half-term?
I'm seeking guidance from the professional officers on this who have been in contact with the Department of Local Government.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair, that's the advice we've received. For example, across the state, some 13 elected members since the last election have stood down for various reasons and they've all required a further election. So the advice we've received is that it would require that.
But this is they're actually been outside the election, whereas this is actually at the election. I think that was the point, Deputy Mayor. Yeah.
So through you, Madam Chair, so that is still the same case as Russell has said, that even though it occurs at the election, if the person is coming from the next tranche of elections, a by-election will need to be held because that person was not up for re-election at that point in time. The other question I think you had too was, so if a councillor stood for the position of mayor and was unsuccessful for the position of mayor, then there is no position for them to go into. Some candidates do stand for the position of mayor and for the position of councillor. So if they're unsuccessful for mayor, they may, depending upon how the voting goes with the community, pick up the position of councillor. But that is a decision of an individual.
You can see here the difficulty we have with the, so it's actually not cut and dry. It is still quite confusing, but at the end of the day, there could very well be a cost, an unknown cost to the council. Councillor Winmar.
Thank you. Question number 2, the transitional arrangements. If the scenario happened that which you just explained from the officer's perspective, there's no supporting legislation regarding mayoral campaigns with thresholds or limits in relation to accepting donations and support from lobbyists or groups or big corporates to back candidates to have a campaign. I'm fearful that the constituency would see the aspirations of representing their community becoming far way outreaching because they would not be in a financial position to run a mayoral campaign, be part of council. I just think that the legislation or the reform is silent and it's ambiguous, and it doesn't give me no confidence that I can support that motion.
Are there any other?
Legislation to cover that, though.
If I might, through you, Madam Chair, it's unclear at this stage what supporting regulations will exist alongside this new legislation. So it may be that there's some clarity around that closer to the event. In terms of the number of elected members, it might assist if I advise that the Local Government Advisory Board have confirmed that in our instance, the only change required as a result of the reform is changing the method of electing the mayor. There is no change needed to our overall number of seats, and that if we were to either drop or increase, we would have to go through the procedure set out in the Act, which would require a complete review.
Thank you. CEO, you wish to say something?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair, just further on that point. So as Russell has said, there is no guidance at this point in time regarding whether there will be any allocation in terms of budgeted amounts that can be spent on campaigns. A lot of states do have that, but it's silent at this point in time. I think you need to be careful in terms of how you consider this, whether that is an impediment to it. I think the process will come through. What we've got to get to is whether we actually take on the change in how the mayor is filled.
Councillor Winmar.
Yeah, thank you. I'll just, that's in the back of mind, just in relation to some recent elections in some neighbouring councils where candidates have spent tens of thousands of dollars on campaigns, and then also tens of thousands of dollars on lawyers in relation to unscrupulous conduct of competing candidates. I wouldn't want that to happen with an efficient and effective council that we have in Kwinana that truly represents the best interests of our constituents, and I wouldn't want that to malign any of that and their aspirations to represent their community.
It's probably beyond our control. You know, it may or may not happen. Yeah, but I appreciate what you're saying. Councillor Brown, were you asking a question, or were you holding until the debate? You had that look about you.
Thank you, Your Worship. I know that there's an officer recommendation and an officer alternative recommendation. Is it possible to get some background on why two have been presented in this context?
Thank you. CEO?
Through you, Madam Chair. So the main recommendation is to move to popularly elected mayor in 2023. The alternate recommendation, and Russell can provide more guidance if necessary around why, but if council decides that they want to move to 2023, but they want to change the number of elected members, i.e. have more or less councillors, then there is a process that we must follow, and that's why that alternate is. But the recommendation is to stay with the current numbers. So the alternate recommendation is purely around the change to the number of councillors, elected members.
Thank you. Just a follow-up question. I note in the report that the local government reform that has prompted, I guess, this transition arrangement through the popular elected mayor was based in part off the back of consultation with a number of groups, the community and whatnot. Does the city feel that such consultation also backs the argument or the position of the city that we should maintain current elected member numbers?
Through you, Madam Chair, I'm going to pass that one to you.
Could you repeat your question?
Oh yes, the report mentions that there was a large amount of consultation that led to the crafting of the reforms that have prompted what we're discussing now with the transition to the popularly elected mayor. Does such...
Yeah, there's two parts to it, so...
I can cover the first part. The consultation that was undertaken by DLG, by the state government. We had no input into that. So the engagement and the consideration of that was by the minister, their advisors, DLG. And that is also the government's direction in terms of where they believe the number of elected members should be sitting. That's not our consultation.
Sorry, and that's why I was a bit thrown by it. I was going, I couldn't remember us having consultation on it.
I understand that. I guess, is it the city's position that the consultation relates to both parts here, the transition to a popularly elected mayor, and also backs the argument that we as a city maintain the current numbers of elected members? Does it apply to both, that consultation? Or was it mainly around the transition to a popularly elected mayor?
Through you, Madam Chair, the consultation that was undertaken on all the proposed reforms. Okay. So there was a huge number which we took council through, and we made a submission to that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. If there's no further questions, I'm happy to resume meeting. Thank you. Moved Deputy Mayor, seconded Councillor Winmar. All in favour? Against? So carried. We do have a recommendation. Would somebody like to move one of the recommendations? The officer's recommendation? Second, Councillor House. Deputy Mayor, would you like to speak on the item?
I will, Your Worship. I get the rhetoric of why the Minister for Local Government is introducing reform. It's certainly not the sort of reform that the previous government tried to impose on local governments by way of trying to amalgamate councils and do all things like that. I get that this change to the way the mayor is elected by the people puts that into the local ratepayers' hands, which is I don't see as a bad thing. I get that council kind of see that reduces the number of councillors, which I don't necessarily agree with, because we still have 7 councillors and the mayor. That won't change. I guess certainly the 2023 election, it means that if the existing 4 councillors were going to nominate to be a councillor, one of them possibly would miss out if they weren't going to run for the mayor. So I see that the point there. I do note one of the good things from the minister's media release was that preferential voting will be optional for local governments. So I assume that we will retain first past the post by way of electing councillors and the mayor. And I guess it is an unfortunate thing, as per the manager of governance has stated. The minister is quite clear in, I guess we are a little bit over a barrel, that if we don't make our own decision, that the minister will make the decision for us and possibly spill the council. And I think out of the whole process, the worst thing that could happen for any local government is if it's a whole brand new council from the beginning. So that's why I support it, Your Worship.
Sorry, can I just state one point about the preferential voting? I understand that'll be the subject of another paper that will come to council.
The Minister's media releases quite clearly state that it's optional, and I would assume that, well, my assumption was made that council were dealing with the question of reform in one go, which was this. So if I'm wrong, then the CEO
Yeah, I would
can...
have thought we would need to come to council for that and to vote on whether we wish to do first past the post or optional. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Councillor Rouse.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll support this motion, but out of sufferance, because due to the state government's overwhelming majority, they're able to introduce legislation without opposition. The City of Kwinana Council has functioned effectively and progressively without a popular elected mayor for its entirety. Although I've only been on council for 5 years, I'm well aware of the cohesion the city has had since moving to the district 20 years ago. There has never been conflict or disruption of the city due to our mayor being elected by council members. Councillors in this town and our city have elected our mayor to be the presiding member at meetings, its figurehead, the council spokesperson, and position that provides support and advice to fellow councillors. And you've done that well, Your Worship, since my time on council. There is always that risk that a popular elected mayor may not uphold these standards. The council, by electing their own mayor, does not grant that position any extra power, except in the case of a tied vote among council members, which, as we know, is a rare occurrence in this chamber. We've had equal number of councillors since my time on council, and I think the last time there was a tied vote was decided by mayor, was a notice of motion brought to this chamber by me, in which the mayor voted down my notice of motion.
Sorry about that.
But I held no animosity or complained about that decision until now. Besides the casting vote, the mayor has no more power in decision making in the chamber than any other councillor, and cannot promise or control the council or the city regardless of what the public chooses to believe. I cannot fathom why the state government is demanding local governments to enable the constituents to directly elect the mayor when the state government does not afford the public the same right to elect the premier. It seems very hypocritical to me. Our city system is not broken. If it's not broken, why try to fix it? The ratepayers of Kwinana under this change may run the risk of a less cohesive council, a council that may not be able to work with the mayor elected by the ratepayers, one who has made assurances and promises but is not able to deliver, a mayor that is divisive and has personal agendas that do not align with those of council nor the people they serve. I'm not sure why the Minister feels the need to enact this change. Is he basing it on his personal experience during his own time as local government elected member and then popular elected mayor? Will he now be bringing a bill to state parliament to propose change to the people who will have a say in the premier will be? Besides a few grumblings on Facebook, the ratepayers seem to be satisfied with the way council functions, and so it is a shame that we're being forced to make this change. The state government and Mr Kerry has spoken, and this is basically an order to change, or be changed. Although there is no legislation in place as yet, it is inevitable that the Minister and State Government will force these changes on local governments because there will be no opposition to the total control the government has. For us not to support this motion, we run the risk of a full spill of council before the next local government elections, which would not be in the best interests of the ratepayers that we serve. We may also run foul of the good standing that the City of Kwinana and Council has been able to command through its efficiency of a cohesive local government, with a council-elected mayor, I might add, should we decide not to agree to the suggestion of Minister Kerry. And so I reluctantly support this motion as I feel I have no other option. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Rouse. Would anybody wish to speak against? Councillor Wood.
We have worked very well with 8 councillors, which include you. We've done that for the last 50 years. Well, sorry, we lost one a while back. I can't remember what year. But we have always, we worked well together, and for me to think that we're going to lose a councillor just because someone says do that is absolutely wrong. One person should not be able to, even if it is a minister, to dictate what the people want, not what he wants. Thank you.
Thank you. Would somebody like to speak for the recommendation? Thank you. Deputy Mayor, do you wish to close?
Yes, Your Worship. I think this repeat what I said before in relation to the number of councillors. I see what your point you're trying to make, Councillor Wood. But as far as the number of councillors sitting around this table, they remain 7. As far as the way that the number of councillors elected before the mayor's elected is obviously will be different. And the other point I will make is that the community could, at any stage, and they could have done over the years, got their 250 signatures and submitted to the local government advisory committee for this to occur without the city's discussion or consultation. So that's the process. You can actually move to a popular elected mayor by way of 250 signatures on a petition. So there's still no reason why a ratepayer hasn't done that or couldn't do that. And then my last point, I guess I would make a request that the city writes to the minister requesting further clarification and consideration in relation to filling a councillor position if a sitting councillor in the opposite term was to be elected. Because I think the impost of a by-election is unnecessary, not only for Kwinana but for any other local governments having to move to popular elected mayor.
Thank you. We were just discussing then, we probably don't need to put that as a recommendation 4. I think, though, that we will do that as a matter of course, because there is a lot of uncertainty here, and we are approaching this, as it would seem, in good faith.
Yeah, I'm not looking to amend the officer's recommendation. I guess I would just make the request that we write to the minister.
Oh, thank you. And as part of that, as raised by Councillor Winmar, we'll seek clarification on campaign contribution limits, etc., and seeing if it's going to be part of the legislative reforms. Thank you for that. If there is nothing further, I shall put this matter to the vote. All in favour? Against? So carried. So did you get those numbers? Yep. The numbers were 5-3. I'm happy to redo the numbers. All in favour. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3. 3 against. Thank goodness you're not on the doing the budget then. Thank you. But look, I really do think that we need to say that the City of Kwinana has worked cohesively. We are one of the few councils, I would say, that has really been under the radar as far as the Department of Local Government, Corruption and Crime Commission and other authorities. But that hopefully won't change. At the end of the day, it's what the Minister's direction is. The Minister will have the numbers and really be up to the community to pick the mayor of the future who they wish to go forward for the next 4 years, and it's up to those members in the chamber around the table to maintain our dedication that we give at every meeting and always make decisions and actions in the best interest of the community of which we voted in to represent. So it's a change of direction, but I suppose we should also embrace change. Thank you. Thank you. Item 18.2 is the accounts for payment for month ending 31st of August 2022. Are there any questions on any of those items? I just have a question of the CEO in relation to one of the local government reforms is live streaming. City of Kwinana has again got on the front foot very early, has embraced the live streaming, but there is a cost to that. So on the budget it's 4,158, which in the scheme of it doesn't seem a lot for a year, but I suppose, what are our numbers like who are watching this riveting meeting every second Wednesday? Do we have any statistics?
Through you, Madam Chair. I don't have the exact statistics in front of me, but it's a handful at any particular meeting.
I suppose then it's up to the council to just to continue reminding people that they can look at democracy and work. They can follow. I was going to say the hottest channel in town every second Wednesday at 5:30, so they choose to get value. to get value for money. I say that tongue in cheek, but it is a lot of money. But again, the City of Kwinana has embraced the minister's change in that regard. So 18.3 is budget variations. Are there any questions on those?
Just need to,
What did I do?
council payment, we need to move for a second.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm happy to move, seeing I asked the question. I got so excited then. Seconded to Councillor Winmar. Any questions? I have no questions. Nothing to raise, thank you. Anybody wish to speak against? I shall put it to the vote. All in favour? Against? Carried. Now we talk about the budget variations. Are there any questions? Take two. It is good to see that the City of Kwinana received a grant for the Department of Foreign Emergency Service, so that the budget variation is adjusted so downward. So that's been that's a good result. Yeah. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong one. I'm talking about the Wellard Oval lighting installation. That the variation isn't as much as what we had originally expected, given we were successful in receiving a grant of $126,000, so that's good news. Are there any other questions or comments in relation to this item? If not, I shall put it to the vote. Moved Councillor Rouse, seconded Councillor Kearney. Councillor Rouse to speak. Councillor Kearney. Anybody wish to speak against? I shall put it to the vote. All in favour? Against, so carried. 18.4 is our quarterly performance report for quarters April to June. And I believe there was an elected members briefing session last week on this item. So do we have any questions? Okay. I have a question that just came up as I'm going through about the child safety track. It said it's to be completed in March 2023. When is it actually going to be commenced? It's scheduled to be completed. No pressure.
February.
So
Yes.
it's going to start in February.
Yes.
And it'll finish in March. Well, that's sufficiency.
Yeah.
It's very good.
Around that time. Yeah.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? I think it's just wonderful when you go through these quarterly reports just to see just how much is happening here at the City of Kwinana, and to refresh ourselves of what is actually going on in the community. That's great. So we have a recommendation. Moved Councillor Winmar, seconded Councillor S. Wood. Councillor Winmar, do you wish to raise a question or speak? Councillor Wood. Anybody wish to speak against? I shall put it to the vote. All in favour? Against, so carried. 18.5 is the adoption of a revised procurement policy. Are there any questions on this policy? Thank you. We have a recommendation. Moved Deputy Mayor, seconded Councillor Winmar. Deputy Mayor, do you wish to speak on the item? Councillor Winmar? Anybody wish to speak against? Put it to the vote. All in favour? Against? Carried. Item 18.6 is our monthly financial report for July to August 2022. Are there any questions of the officers on that report? No, thank you. We have a recommendation. Would somebody like to move? Move Councillor Kearney, seconded Councillor Brown. Councillor Kearney, do you wish to speak on the item? Councillor Brown. Anybody wish to speak against? I shall put it to the vote. All in favour? Against, so carried. Sorry, Councillor Brown, like a rabbit in a headlight then, so sorry. Thank you. 18.7 is a local law adoption, a CAT amendment local law. Oh, and I have to read the recommendation out, but beforehand are there any questions on this rather checkered history of our CAT local laws? Thank you. Would somebody like to move? Sorry, moved Councillor Rouse, seconded Councillor Westwood. Councillor Rouse, do you wish to speak?
I guess I should, Your Worship. It's been a journey to get to this point, and for me it has been somewhat frustrating and disappointing. These laws fall short of what we intended at the start of this journey and the expectations of the majority of the community. But unfortunately, they are the best that the state government will allow. Councils across Perth are wanting stricter cat controls. The public wants stricter cat controls. The statutory review into the Cat Act recommended stricter cat controls. However, the state government continues to turn its back on the wants of local government and its residents and continue to ignore the negative environmental impacts that wandering cats are causing to our valued native fauna. Hopefully in the near future, the state government will listen to the local governments who closely represent their residents by amending the Cat Act to effectively address the wants and needs of the people of this state and our wildlife. I thank the city officers and CEO and my fellow elected members for pursuing stricter cat laws. Although we have not achieved our desired outcome, we have at least highlighted to the state government that they need to enact change to represent the views of the people they serve, and they need to act fast. Unfortunately, again, I reluctantly support this motion as it is the best we can do under the constraints of our state government. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, well said. Councillor Westwood?
That I heartily concur with Councillor Rouse.
Anybody wish to speak against? Shall put it to the vote. I've got to read it out.
You've got to read it out first.
Got to read it out before we vote on it.
Yeah.
Okay. That council resolved that the presiding member reads aloud the City of Kwinana Cat Amendment Local Law 2002 purpose and effect as follows. The purpose of the local law is to amend the City of Kwinana Cat Local Law 2022. The effect of the local law is to A, delete clause 3.1-cats wandering, and B, create cat prohibited areas across key bushland and reserves in the district. 2, adopt the City of Kwinana Cat Amendment Local Law at Attachment A. 3, cause the City of Kwinana Cat Amendment Local Law 2002 to be published in the Government Gazette and provide a local public notice stating the purpose and effect of the local law, when the local law will come into operation, and that copies are available for public inspection. And 4, authorise the Chief Executive Officer and Mayor to complete and then sign the explanatory memorandum and statutory procedure checklist of the process used for the adoption of the cat law. I therefore put this item to the vote. All in favour? Against? Carried. So there is nothing on item 19, 20, 21 that I've been made aware of. Item 22, reports of elected members. Deputy Mayor.
Just briefly, Your Worship, I conducted the citizenship in actual fact because you're on leave of absence. We welcomed 29 new citizens on the Saturday of National Citizenship Day. I also attended the Senior Citizens Association's monthly meeting, which is always a great meeting, Your Worship. And if I could just compliment City Officer Jenny Marsland, who was in attendance at the meeting, providing some governance assistance to the committee. And I also attended the Ride Your Bike to School event at Aurelia Primary with a number of other councillors. Thank you, Your Worship.
May I ask, who's current president of the Senior Citizens?
John Crouch.
Still John, thank you. Councillor Winmar.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. I performed all those duties required of me. And also out of interest, just express that I attended the Medina Green amendments to the car parking situation with the new format. And there was, while I was actually there was some positive feedback from passers-by, so
Great.
everything was going well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor D. Wood.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I have performed all those duties required of me. I have been to a number of other functions, including the senior citizens, the citizenship ceremony. On your behalf, I went to the bowling club for their opening, and I bowled brilliantly, by the way. And I only had one shot though. Where was it, the other one? That'll do anyway. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Rouse.
Thank you, Worship. I too attended the citizenship ceremony and National Citizenship Day, and concur that the the Deputy Mayor did a very good job standing in your place, Your Worship, and kudos to you, Councillor Brown. So, also on Monday, the 19th of September, I attended I chaired the Bullaburra Advisory Council in your absence, your Councillor Winmar and Your Worship. We unfortunately didn't have a quorum, but there was no real decision making to be had. But it was a really constructive discussion we had on those days. So I'm sure we'll catch you up with all of the proceedings, and that's it, Your Worship.
Thank you, and I'm pleased to see our local tagger has been sorted, we hope. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a short one from me today, but I enjoyed attending the most recent citizenship ceremony at Medina Hall alongside my fellow councillors, and I thank the Deputy Mayor for the invitation to try my hand at emceeing the event on the day. So thank you.
Well, you are a polished performer, so I'm sure you'd have done very well. Councillor Wood.
Yeah, I attended the citizenship ceremony as well, and it's always a privilege to be in situations like that where members of our community are formally becoming Australian citizens, and all the happiness in the room. It's a really great feeling. I also attended the bowling club season opening along with Councillor Wood. It was well attended. We had a light lunch and followed by some games of bowling, which Councillor Wood and I were observers, except he had one bowl, the opening bowl, and shocked everyone about how good it was.
Sign him up.
I'm sure it was a fluke. I also attended the Ride Your Bike to School Day at Aurelia Primary School Oval along with Councillor Feasey and Councillor Wood. It was also the official opening of the bike path which goes down Gilmore Avenue. The children all decorated their bikes. It was really fabulous. One of the directors, Gary Fisher, was there as well. They were fabulous, weren't they? The bikes that were decorated and the happy children riding little bikes around. There was a table of free fruit for the children to help themselves to, and the council provided an information table with those invisible pens, which once the people found out what they were, they really loved them. The police were there as well, and I'm not sure what they were doing, but I think they were providing talks on bicycles and caring for bicycles and safety for bicycles. It was altogether a happy occasion. Thank you.
Councillor Kearney.
No, I have nothing to report.
Thank you very much. There are no questions on notice. Again, a very short report from me this time, as I have been on leave of absence, and I'd just like to thank Deputy Mayor for the assistance provided as Acting Mayor in my absence. I went to an event today, and that's what the shovel is for. It was hosted by Fremantle Ports, and it was the official sod turning for the Kwinana bulk terminal clinker import circuit developed at the Kwinana bulk terminal in the Kwinana industrial area. Deputy Premier and Kwinana MLA Roger Cook officiated over the proceedings, and it was certainly encouraging to see how much work is being undertaken in the actual industrial area just by virtue of the number of cranes that they have on site at the different areas there. This upcoming weekend will be busy with the commencement of the Local Government Week. A few of the highlights were the Mayors and Presidents Forum on Sunday afternoon, and a special invitation for 6 Mayors and Presidents, of which I've been invited, to meet with the Honourable Christy McBain, Federal Minister for Regional Development, Local Government and Territories. Minister McBain asked to speak to those from outer metropolitan areas who have taken proactive approach to managing growth and to raise issues and potential solutions relevant to the federal government, and I certainly look forward to reporting back to you all at our next council meeting. Probably like to end with a very big bouquet to City Life members, reading through our weekly report. Listened to the video that was taken of a conference that our officers Sinead and Callum presented at and it was to do with our Worrell Court initiative, a project that was undertaken through, I suppose it was a bit of a neighbourhood watch, a bit of a wraparound service to some antisocial issues there. I just think our team do such a wonderful job. So if you do have the opportunity just to have a listen, I think it does go for a little while. But it was on the world stage, as I understand it. So I think it's wonderful to see the City of Kwinana out there doing some good things locally for our community. Now, on that note, we have one item behind closed doors. So, Deputy Mayor, would you like to move that way? And seconded to Councillor D. Wood. All in favour? Against? Carried. Against? So carried.
It'd be nice when it's the kids' pipeline's done. It'd be good, won't it? Very.
we back on? Thank you. We did have a confidential item that has now been dealt with. It was 25.1, the development of a mini golf attraction, and the officer's recommendation was carried, which was that Council 1 endorse the tender weighting set out in attachment A, and 2, note the financial implication set out in attachment A. So there are no further items to consider for tonight. Thank you all very much for your attendance. Thank you.